What's going on, everybody? On this edition of the NH Experience, we have a very special guest, a legend in the music industry, an executive of all kinds. Has so many clients over the course of time in the area of music. He has managed the likes of DJ Quik, Sugafree, DJ Battlecat, the late great Mossberg, Cocaine, Glasses Malone. He's also been an influence in the city of Chicago when it comes to helping the youth and making sure that the music industry as well as music executives be more responsible when it comes to disseminating their programming to the young people and the youth, not just in Chicago, but across the nation. He is the one and only, the living legend himself,
Oh,
Mr. Stan Sheppard. How are you, sir?
Nick, thank you so much for that gracious introduction. It's a pleasure to be on your show, and I thank you in advance for everything that you represent and for having me on.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to have you on. I mean, I remember going to the record stores back in the day and purchasing some of your artist music and hearing that name, Sheppard Lane Records, and hearing the artists that have come out under that tree. So it definitely is an honor. And you also not just about that, but I know we were talking off air and how you were a part of some other history with your dad and your uncle when it came to the R&B sector coming out of Chicago. So talk a little bit about that
You
and
know,
inform the people about that type of history.
definitely, it's very, very interesting. I was born into the first family of black music, and when I say that, it's because in the 1950s, my father, his name was Bunky Sheppard, he's passed away. He left us in around 1997. Well, back in the 1950s, he and my uncle, named Ewart Abner, got together with a husband and wife team named Vivian Carter and Jimmy Bracken. And they formed a company called VJ Records, VEEJAY. Now, this is a very interesting history, Nick. This company, born on the south side of Chicago, was the first company in the world to sign the Beatles. As wild as that seems.
Wow.
Yes, they were signed to VJ Records. Unfortunately, VJ Records, just like any small and upcoming company at that time, had trouble with funding. So, unfortunately, they had to sell the contract of the Beatles to Capitol Records, where they are till this day. So, I was raised, as they call in sports or horse racing or whatever you want to call it, in the purple. I've seen it from the start to the finish. As far as recording artist, I saw and heard Gene Chandler record his song The Duke of Earl in my basement in Chicago on the South Side. So many hits and so many big stars like the Dells, the Shy Lights. All of these people were coming into my house to deal with my dad because he was huge in the record industry as far as promoting records and breaking new acts are concerned. And in 1978, he and my uncle, they left VJ Records because of the financial situation that they went through. And Barry Gordy asked them both to come to Motown to be president and senior vice president. So my dad and my uncle went to Motown in 78, 79 and took over the presidency and the senior vice presidency of their biggest time in history. So I was able to meet everybody there, all the stars. I developed great relationships with Smokey, everybody, Temptations. I just had a great upbringing. And through all this, I saw how hit records are made, and I saw how hit records are promoted. And what will stop a record from becoming a hit. And so I really, really am one of the most educated men in the recording industry because I've just been raised by the best. Simple as that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a history lesson in itself. I mean, we can only read about it, but you were actually there in the mix before it even went to print for the rest of us out here to learn about it or read about it, those who were in real time. At what point, Stan, did you realize, okay, I want to solidify my own legacy. I want to start on my own path. And what point and what gravitated you towards hip hop?
Well, to tell you the truth, I always, coming from the south side of Chicago, I always gravitated towards the harder sound of music. I liked R&B music, and I was good at writing and producing it. And so that's what I focused on. But really, to tell you the truth, it's that I always wanted to do something different, and I got sidetracked. Right after when I was working at Motown as a writer producer, then the Jacksons hired me. I worked as the co-president with Jermaine Jackson with the Jackson family, and we had a company called Jackson Communications, and we put together the show called the Jackson Family Honors, where we put the every member of the family on stage for the first time ever performance. And so it was a wonderful experience for me. And you got to understand something. I came up in Chicago with Jermaine, with Jackie, and Tito because we were all doing talent shows together. Well, my career didn't go far, but obviously you can see where theirs went. But we all stayed cool. And what was so cool about this, when I came out to LA to move to try to establish myself in the business, Miss Jackson let me live with them. So
Wow.
it was me, Jermaine, Tito, and and Jackie, and we were best buddies, and we still today are best buddies. And we don't see each other that often, but we're still cool together. So I've had a very diverse career. I've seen it all. I've done it just about all. So really, I've been blessed, man, to have this long of a career at 71 years old.
Yes, indeed. Now I have to ask you, I mean, being around the Jackson family is just legendary in itself. But what did you see being around that family in Janet and then obviously Michael Jackson being the king of pop and the icon that he was at that time?
Well, I was very protective of all the brothers because really, to tell you the truth, they had a very different lifestyle. I was one of the very few people who were not caught up in the, how would you call, the fame aspect of it, and I was able to talk to them straight up. And what I witnessed, I worked with Jermaine and the family for 2 years, from 92 until 94. And I saw, I want to be, I want to be nice when I say this. I saw nothing but people trying to use them.
Mhm.
I saw evil at its height. And quite frankly, I don't know how they put up with it. I'm talking about all of them. They were all lied to, they were all used, but did such good people. You understand what
Mhm.
I'm saying? And I went through a time where when Latoya was going through all that stuff, I was the person that they would talk to screen calls and all like that. So it was a situation where um, I felt very sad for them
Mm.
because they couldn't lead a normal lifestyle
Right.
and they couldn't trust anybody. Very difficult, man.
Yeah, I mean, you could see that in all of them just from afar when you look at some of the interviews and you see the things that you read about in the papers. But especially when you look at Michael, because he has such a huge heart, especially for children, especially for people that were underprivileged. He really has such. It seemed like he has such a big heart. But he was a very smart man too, because obviously we know what he did with the Beatles catalog. Very smart businessman, and then Janet as well. You see, the uh, the effects that what she went through and was able to still rise to stardom, and then the people that she affected in a positive way too. So I definitely understand what you mean as far as people tugging at them and trying to use them and manipulate them, which is really unfortunate. But unfortunately, it's just the way of the world goes, especially with people like that in that limelight.
I mean, just think about this for a second. Put yourself in this position, what I used to always tell people.
Hmm.
Imagine right now if, Nick, you board a plane and fly to China, and there's 200,000 people waiting for you at the airport. And then you get on a plane and you fly to Africa, and there's 300,000 people waiting for you. You fly anywhere in the world, and people are called, Nick, Nick, oh, Nick. How is that not going to affect you? How is
Hmm.
that not going to make you a person that you don't even know how to judge people, man? You don't even know if a person gives you a compliment, you don't know if it's real or if it's fake. So
Hmm.
it's a world that you really don't know how to exist in unless you're in it. And I don't know too many people who are in it. Who was any bigger than Michael Jackson and the Jacksons?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
You
the only
tell
person
me.
I could, yeah, only person I could think of that's close to is Prince. That's the only dude I can think
Well,
of. Other than that,
really, Mike, to me, Michael was bigger than Prince.
yeah, on a larger scale, absolutely. I'm just saying, as far as in that neighborhood of
Yes,
people, Prince
yes,
is the only dude I can think of.
yes. So I mean, it's so I looked at that and I said, man, what would I do in the situation? I mean,
Hmm.
what would anybody do? You're going to be affected, and it's
Hmm.
going to be different, man. And you can't trust people, man. That's why I became an untrusting individual.
Mm.
And I went from that to the rap industry in 1994.
Yeah.
What's more destructive and backstabbing than rap? Nothing.
So when you go, you talked about making the right connections or being connected, as it were, obviously from the streets to the boardrooms. How are you able to connect with the streets, and then how are you able to make that transition into the boardrooms and then gaining the trust of someone like a DJ Quick, who obviously had platinum, success, ultra talented, to me, arguably one of the best producers in the game.
Well, it's like this. Coming from Chicago, that's a city of gang banging, and unfortunately, I was caught up in it until I was 26, and I got out of the city. So I changed my life. I was blessed enough to be able to do that. I had bad experiences. So therefore, when I met the guys from the street, see, I met DJ Battlecat first.
Okay.
Someone introduced me to him. And so after I met Battlecat and I saw how great of a guy he was, I said, well, what is everybody talking about, this gangsterism stuff? And so then I started working with Battlecat. And then slowly but surely, I started to see the gangsterism. I started to see it creep in the recognition. Remember, this is 1994 when I first hooked up with Battlecat. He was a young guy, and my partner and I gave him a room, just a small room to put his equipment in. He would be working in it. Okay. So I saw him develop from that. And then in the interim, he told me about DJ Quik, how DJ Quik was stuck in a bad contract at Profile Records in New York. And he was on what they call suspension. And for those of you who don't know what suspension is, basically when a record company has a problem with you that hasn't been resolved legally, they
Uh-huh.
can extend the term of your contract until that problem is resolved. It's like dead time. So basically, I had to go in, convince the owners of Profile that I wasn't from Death Row because that's what they felt that I was associated with, which was Death Row, because that's what Quick was associated with at the time. And so I had to educate them that no, I wasn't. That Suge is a respectable friend of mine, but I wasn't from Death Row. So it took about, I would say, 2 months for me to negotiate with the company where DJ Quick could do 12 tunes to complete an album for Profile, and then Profile would release him from suspension and let him start earning money doing productions and his own recordings. Now, that was done because I found out their Profile was trying to sell their company for $20 million to Clive Davis, and they couldn't sell the company unless they got a DJ Quik album. So therefore, I negotiated that. We worked it out, and the rest is history. And we went over, and I negotiated the deal with Mr. Davis, and the rest is history.
So this
So
was. I'm sorry. I
I'm
just want to get. I just want to get the timeline straight. So this was after "Quick Is the Name" and "Way Too Funky." This was before "Safe and Sound" was recorded, or was it was?
I came on to work with DJ Quik at the end of 1994.
Okay.
And from that, I managed him from 1994 until 2005. And then that's when I exited doing what I was doing with my record company because there was just too much death surrounding the label. So after I got Quik out of that contract, the first record he did was a platinum hit on Shaq. So, it was, I think, the first time in history that a NBA player or any type of artist from sports went platinum or even had a hit. I can't remember any that did as big as that. And so after that, I just started to meet the different artists. Sugafree was coming out of prison. I knew how incredible he was. But you must remember something. At that time, when I started my company, Nick, I was 52 years old. I didn't know anything about rap, especially gangster rap. So DJ Quik and Battle Cat had to educate me. And then Cocaine had to educate me when I started working with him. Okay, so it was an educational process for me that was wonderful. So it wasn't hard for me to get along with the guys. I just stayed out of the way. They didn't want to be around me, man. I'm 52 years old. Everybody I worked with was 20 years younger than me or more, but they liked me because I didn't judge them. You know what I'm saying? I was just doing the business, and that's all it was. And the streets respected that. That's why to this day I have such a good rapport with people across the Los Angeles area. And that's what blue, red, and burgundy, and gold, and green, and brown. I have great relationships with these guys, and I'm very proud of that.
No, yeah. I mean, when you look at, I remember, Quick when he made that transition, and I remember he did the Rhythmalism album when he had the blue shirt, and everybody was like, "Whoa!" And it
Yeah.
seemed like he was really talking about moving more into spirituality, obviously changing himself and his ways. It was a drastic change from Safe and Sound, which to me arguably is one of my favorite Quick albums. Um, but when you look at just the maturation, was that because the talks that you two have had at that moment, or what did you see in Quick that you saw the changing in him, still being the incredible talent that he is, but just changing as a human being and as a man in this business?
Well, let me put it to you this way, and I want you to kind of, if you can, and your viewers can do the same thing, your listeners. Um, just picture me at 52 years old, speaking with David. David is DJ Quik. Speaking with David, just coming into his life, and now I'm finding out there's death threats on him. I mean, serious death threats. And then I found out all of the things that he was going through in his personal life on top of that. And I was just blown away by this young man and how strong intellectually he was and is. And I didn't see how he was able to do as many hits back to back to back that he was doing while going through all this trouble. It's all been documented. So what I'm saying to you, we had His best friend killed in his home. We've had so many murders and everything that this man went through. And my respect factor for him is just incredible because I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done what he did. And I just, I looked at everything that was going on in my label. I looked at him as a young man, and I would do anything for him. And I still would do anything for him to this day because he's that special to me.
Oh, absolutely. You mentioned earlier about Sugar Free, and that street gospel album to me was still a classic. That is one of the most incredible albums. I think Quik really went in his bag on that production tip. Talk to me about Sugar Free and what you saw out of this man and why he's so dynamic as an artist and as the person that he is.
Let me say this to you. And it's so cool is that when Sugar Free came to our company, I didn't know how to judge Sugar Free because Sugar Free was so different and he was wild. I mean, when I would listen to Sugar Free, I said, "Whoa, wait a minute, what did you say?" And now, remember, I'm 52. I'm trying to hear. I'm trying to go along with the lyrics. I'm like, "Whoa!" And all the guys from Compton, it's like, "Stan, we got one here. We got one." I didn't know. I just knew I liked it, but I didn't know how the public was going to like it. And what was such a trip when Sugar Free and I sat down and we discussed everything that was going to go on. I said, Free, you are so different from everybody that's out there. I said, it's going to be an uphill battle, but I said, I'm ready for the fight. I said, are you? He said, Stan, whatever you need me to do, I'm ready. Let's go get it. So I went out on a mission, and that mission was not to be turned back. I had to get radio and I had to get the streets on Sugar Free. That was my focus. That was our first release on Sheppard Lane. So when I went out to promote Sugar Free, guess what, Nick? Nobody liked him. They told me to take it home, come back with something else. I said, what? I said, you guys got to be kidding me. I said, I even know this is cool. This is different. No, it ain't gonna happen. That was at Power 106 at the time. Well, there was another station called The Beat. Well, I ran over to The Beat and played it for a man by the name of Tawala Sharp, which was the program director at the time. And after listening to the record up to the first hook section, he stopped it midstream. And I said, oh, God, another rejection. And so he said, Stan, you got a hit record on Sugar Free. I said, you really feel that? He says, yeah, man, I'm going to bust this record for you. I was so happy. I went and did whatever I had to do to push that record everywhere we could push it. And guess what happened? Here comes Power 106. Stan, we were wrong. Now we're going to play the record. And 4 weeks afterwards, we were number one on the West Coast. Saying that to say nobody knows what's going to happen with a record or an artist. You put it out there, you do the best that you can do, and hope the public accepts it. But it was great working with Sugar Free, and it was great. It was a great experience. And guess what? Quik could have done that album in a multi-million-dollar studio, but he chose to do it at a home studio because he didn't want to lose the nastiness and the funk and the rawness that Sugar Free had, and that's what he had. And he said, Stan, do you mind if we just do it that way? I said, man, I'm not going to ever question anything you do. I'm going to
No.
follow your lead and go from there. And that's what we did. And right after that, boom, major hit record.
Oh no, there was some heat on that record. You talked about radio. Shout out to Tawala Sharp for having the vision enough to even see the record and hear the record. But I want to talk about two individuals at that time that were instrumental, especially in hip hop in LA on the West Coast, and that's Theo and Julio G. How much did they help, push not only just DJ Quick but Sugafree and Sheppard Lane artists as well?
They were two of the most incredible young men that I've met. Julio G is a staple.
Yes.
Theo, Theo was the biggest air personality in Los Angeles, bar none. And you got to understand something. Theo was at Quik's house at least 5 times a week after he got off work because Quik was teaching him how to be a producer.
Mm.
So we all had great relationships, and it really helped him because we would give Theo dibs on the first tunes coming out of Sheppard Lane's camp. You got to understand something. Just picture this. If you were a program director, Nick, and I'm coming to you first, I'm coming to you with DJ Quick single. Then I'm going to come to you with a DJ Battle Cat single, the East Siders, whatever we're doing. Then I'm going to come to you with a Cocaine single. Then I'm going to come to you with a Mossberg single. We just had so many hit singles that anything that we put out, the public was gravitating towards. And it wasn't that I was some Svengali that knew how to pick hits. No, I had a unit, and I would test every record. And we wouldn't go out with anything unless that record was tested. And then when it was tested, it came back positive. Now we're putting our foot down because we know what we had.
You mentioned Mossberg, rest in peace, who I thought was an incredible talent. I thought Mossberg was put down real street raps, but he had bars with his street raps, and he was able to merge those two together and really tell a story. What did you see in Mossberg that gave you the belief that this kid is next? Because at that time, I remember it was like everybody was focused on Exhibit, and once Exhibit was done blowing with working with Dr. Dre, I kept hearing rumblings of, "Hey, this kid from Compton is next. This Mossberg kid is next. Like he's the next one on." What did you see before the buzz was created?
Well, first of all, see, Compton is set up differently. There's the east side and west side. My business partner was from the west side of Compton, Tony Lane. Now, Mossberg was from the east side of Compton. And my partner, Lee Ford, brought Mossberg to Sheppard Lane.
Okay.
I didn't have anything to do. Remember, all I did is when they come to me and say, Stan, this is what we like, my job was to make it a hit, to go out there and do what I had to do. I wasn't in the age group to judge any records. That wasn't my function. I had everybody at Sheppard Lane telling me what was good and what was bad. Then they released me and told me to go do what I do. So when I went out with Mossberg's music, it was incredible because the people just said, oh, man, they were referring to him as the Biggie of the West Coast. That's what they were calling. And everything that Mossberg touched was fire. And you got to understand something. Quik didn't know about Mossberg until we brought Mossberg to Quik. And Quik got in the room with him one day, and he heard Mossberg flow over one of his tracks, and we all just sat there and we said, oh my God, we have another star at Sheppard Lane. And so it was just beautiful to see that young man, the potential of what he could have had and what he should have been in our world if the evil demons didn't take him from us.
Yeah, Mossberg to me, I thought obviously gone way before his time, but at the same time, you guys were still able to have tracks where the fans can really get to know exactly what he was about, can hear his music even to this day, and his persona lives on even through his music. And I remember hearing stories about Julio G actually picking him up and talking to him, and people really gravitating towards Mossberg, like really, bigging him up.
Exactly. People love Mossberg, and he was just special to me. You got to understand this, Nick. I did not want to associate with the young artist on Sheppard Lane. Again, I'm 20, 25 years older than them. They weren't going to get any fun out of that. So, but what happened was that surprisingly, Sugafree, Mossberg, Quik, Cat, Cocaine, all those guys liked to be around me because they could relax. They could
Mhm.
be themselves because I wasn't judging them. If I was just there to help. And they knew I was from the streets. They knew my background, but they knew I was 25 years older and I was removed from that bull crap. But I still understood it. Okay? You got to understand this. I'm 71 years old right now. And when I'm in Chicago, when I drive on the freeway and I go past the sign that says 79th Street, it still affects me 50 years later. That's how deep this street stuff is. It affects you internally and it never goes away. It changes you. It changed me. So I looked at the guys and I tried to distance myself, but I, I have to share this. Mossberg's 21st birthday was coming up, and I was giving him some money to go to Vegas and I said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "I want to go to Vegas." So I was giving him some money so he can go to Vegas. I said, "Man, have a great time." He said, "Stan, I want to go with you." And I looked. I said, "On your 21st birthday, you want to spend it with me?" He said, "Yeah, man, I love you." He said, "Yeah, man, I love you, dog." So we got in the car and we drove to Vegas and spent his 21st birthday there. And then I get a call shortly after, said they killed him. And that was about it for me, man, because we had 18 deaths, 18 murders at my label.
Mhm.
18. And it just rips your heart out. And it's very difficult for me to listen to his music to this day.
Mhm.
So I do things for a different reason. I don't have to do what I do. I'm 71 years old, bro. But I don't want to see these young men go through what I went through. And I want their happiness. And I get so angry at these black music executives that won't help me help these young men write their lives. They won't help me. I'm trying to help these young men get out of this mess that they're in. You follow what I'm saying?
Definitely.
But it's like I'm preaching to deaf people. They don't care. They don't care about these black deaths. All they want to do is make money. So please, when you see me online, just know I've been through a lot and I've seen too much death in rap music. Quite frankly, I don't think there's been more deaths in any label than Sheppard Lane and Death Row. None. So yes, I'm very, very emotional when it comes to what we're doing right now. So please understand that.
Oh,
I need
absolutely.
help from these record companies, man. I'm trying to stop gang bang. I'm trying to get radio stations in Chicago to cut back on playing gang bang music during school time. Why can't you start in the evening? The killers are in high school these days. The killers are under 21. Give them a break, man. Let these kids grow up. Stop bombarding them with banging 24/7. It never stops. And I want the people to put some pressure on these black music executives out here that are financing and promoting this crap. There's only so much I can do as one man. But believe me, I'm not going to give up. And maybe somebody with power is going to help me. Look at what's happening right now. You're on here with me. I didn't know you 6 months ago.
Right.
But now look what I'm doing. I'm on your show, reaching people that I never would have reached before. So who knows what the future can hold? I just know I need some help. And I'm asking for help from the black music executives. You know my number. You know you've made money with me before. And all I'm asking to do is stop the gang banging, bro. Stop the gang banging on music. Stop pissing on graves. Stop smoking the remains of people, and now these record companies are selling it. What is that? That's bull crap, man. So that's what I'm on my little mission. And I need some help. That's all I'm saying, bro. Simple as that. And what I'm trying to do in Chicago, I'm trying to raise $20 million to build a beautiful state-of-the-art facility that will be in a safe, gang-free zone where these young black kids can learn different trades in the music industry. They can learn how to mix, master, record, graphic arts, all of these different things. That's what I'm focused on. I got the young artists that I work with, ESCDs. I got Big Rick from the West Side. I got Liffy Stokes, Turtle Banks. We're reaching out to all these different people. JoJo Capone, we're reaching out to all these different people. I need help. And we can do it together and make a difference. That's all I'm going to say on that, man. I just, I'm passionate about what I'm doing, man, and I need some help, man.
Absolutely. I want to unpack what you just said because there were three things that came to my mind. So the first question is, what specifically are you want to accomplish with, you're not calling for censorship, but you're calling for responsibility. So what are you looking for to happen by pushing the music back to a certain hour versus what they're playing right now?
All I'm saying, there is so much music out there that you can choose from. All I'm saying is from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., can we just not play death music for the kids? Just during school hours, you can play whatever you want to play after 6 p.m., but give these kids a chance, bro, because when I drive by the high schools in Chicago, they're banging hard, real hard. And so all I'm asking for is a cutback. No censorship. Just start it in the evening time. When I was growing up, they used to have more of the X-rated stuff at night anyway.
Right.
Even BET used to have BET After Dark.
Uncut. Yep.
Or BET Uncut, whatever it was. Got a lot of shows after dark crap. Well, all I'm asking for is, man, come on, man, get it. J. Cole and Kendrick and all these different people, they're not talking about pissing on graves and smoking remains. There's a lot of different acts out there that are not pushing pissing on graves. That's all I'm asking, man. Just cut back a little bit.
You mentioned about black executives, which understandably, but are you also going after other executives that are non-black or non-people of color?
Well, I just wrote an open letter yesterday to the industry, and it was addressed to all the major labels, Warner Brothers, Universal, and Sony. Now, obviously, there are no black people in the upper echelons at these labels that are making decisions financially. Those are all people from overseas, not even American, not even, I'll put it to you this way. No black folks are making any decisions on anything. All they can do is give some input to their bosses. Now, the bosses don't know nothing about black music. So what are they going to do? They're going to follow the advice of the black executives. And when the black executives want to sign something, whether it's pissing on graves music or smoking ashes music, their white counterparts who own the companies are going to say, okay, that's what you feel we should do, let's do. And then they finance it. So the trouble doesn't lie, in my view, totally with the white ownership of these corporations. It lies specifically with these A&R directors who are black who are sanctioning this crap. And I know them all. If I don't know them all, my people know them all. So understand something. There's a lot that the major labels can do. They have influence over the record, over the radio stations. Who pays for their advertising? Hold on. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that the problem really is in the hands of the black A&R directors. Watch what you sign and watch what you tell your people to promote, because you're causing black death. You know how many black folks have been killed in Chicago up till today? 547.
Wow.
Can you imagine if 547 people of any other race were killed in one city, what they'd be doing? They'd be calling out the National Guard, the Army, whatever. And 2,757 people wounded. Did you hear me? 2,757 wounded. 1,300 of those are paralyzed. And I can't get somebody from the major record companies to help me, but they're making billions. And all I'm asking them to do is help me build this center and to help cut back what they're playing and what they're promoting that's causing black death. Come on, bro, that's not much to ask. And guess what? I haven't received one phone call or one email from any black executive at any record company to say, how can we help? They don't do anything. Sometimes it's like I'm shouting in the wind, man, and nobody's listening. Does anybody give a darn about black death? That's what I'm asking. Does anybody give a DAMN about black death? It sure don't look like it. I can't even get a call. All right, man. I'm good. I'm good.
No, I mean, I'm glad you're relaying this information. Are there any other resources that you've been able to tap into that have been helpful in aiding you in this cause, as far as trying to minimize and stop some of this black death through the music that continues to be played?
The only people, and there are hundreds of them, who have contacted me to say, Stan, we'll stand outside of offices with you. We'll do whatever we have to do to protest this. But these people are not powerful people. These people are working people. These people are poor people who do not want to continue down this road. I have called 5 record company presidents and vice presidents, told them what I was calling for. All I've received is crickets. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. How about big artists that I've reached out to, black artists? Nothing. Nothing. Okay, I'm through with it.
Well, you know what? I will say this much. I think what you're moving towards is a definitely worthy cause. It's a noble cause. And anytime we are out here trying to save the youth, and I mean we as talking about the community,
Exactly.
um, I think it's always something to be looked upon, to be studied, and to be receptive towards. Because if we don't look out for our own communities, we can't expect anybody else to.
Do you think? Let me ask you a question. Sometimes I say stuff that don't sound good. Do you think anybody really gives a damn about the black community? Come on, come
That's,
on, bro.
you know
Come
what?
on, bro.
I'm gonna say this. It's sad to even have to ask that question, number one. And when you ask that question, we pretty much 80% of it we know the answer to.
Thank you.
I've always said we have to start caring first as a community. And not enough of us care about the community.
Guess what, Nick? The one thing that really pisses me off is that black folks don't understand the power that we got. Guess what? It's like having a stock and it's worth $500 a share, but everybody's been telling you it's worth five. And you go out and just give it away. But now you find out later, wow, that was what I had. I had power. I had something really good, but I didn't know it. Just think, for example, you talk about power. Think about this. Think about Game 7, NBA Finals. And now there's been some discord. Now all this money has been bet in Las Vegas on Game 7. Now here comes the tip off, and every black player walks off. They walk off the floor and they go into the locker room. You know how much money that would F up? Do the same thing at the Super Bowl, right at kickoff. I bet you get some action them from them white corporations. You must understand something. Corporations, they don't care about you. They don't care about themselves. They eat their own. So what do you think they'll do to you? I've been raised in that. I understand it. And I had to get over the fact of it being personal. It's just business. So that's where I am. I'm not talking to anybody about personal things. I'm just talking about business. I've been
No,
around with platinum artists, nothing but hits. So what are you going to educate me with? Oh, you want to educate me with the biggest artists in the world that I work with, the Jacksons, Michael Jackson? Well, stop it. Stop it. It's not that no, I've just done it for 47 years and I'm good at it. Aren't you
touche.
good at what you do?
I think I'm good.
Oh, there
I
you
think
go.
I'm all right.
Now put 47 more years on that, and I'll ask you that same question.
There you go.
As
There you
simple as
go.
that.
No, I understand. I mean, you haven't you're right. Economics moves the needle. I mean, we talked about this on the show before about the whole Robert Sarver, the owner of the Phoenix Suns, who the NBA didn't punish initially, but then when enough pressure from certain players, obviously sponsors started speaking out and saying we're no longer going to sponsor. Then all of a sudden, this man, quote unquote, decides to sell his team. Now, whether that was under pressure from behind the scenes or not, it didn't happen until economic pressure was applied. So I totally understand what you're saying as far as this corporations, economics, things that have to move the needle. And sometimes that can be a good thing, and sometimes it can be a very terrible thing. Um, because when you look at the overall landscape, it shouldn't have to come to that, but unfortunately it does. So what do we as a community and as people need to do to help get your message out there, not only to the music industry, but to the world as a whole?
Well, I know one thing: people power changes the world. Now, also, there is a new president of Warner Brothers that is taking office January 1st. And he made a statement that I want to say to the world right now through your show. And his statement was that music brings about change. Music can change thinking and it can change communities. Well, he's 1,000% right. That's why I'm asking him, Lucian Grange from Universal, Rob Stringer from Warner Brothers, from Sony, all of these different people, and Empire Records, Ghazi and Nima. Watch what you're signing and watch what you're financing, because you're financing Black Death through these songs. And all I ask is that, how would you guys like it if black record companies were putting out music saying kill your people? I don't think you'd like it that much. How'd you like it if black record companies were telling you to go piss on some graves? You wouldn't like that. So basically, in closing, what I'm trying to basically just get across is that we don't have to be this ignorant in what we disseminate as far as music is concerned. There are other options. We don't have to push murder music 24/7. Give people an option. And reach out to me, record companies. I'm not scary. I'm not doing anything wrong to you. I'm trying to help you get out of the BS mode that you're in, putting out this murder music. Nick, I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for the opportunity to let me speak to your audience. And again, whatever help you can be, whatever help any of the people can be, I need it. And one more thing, then I'm gone.
Sure.
Tell DJ Academics to get at me. He made his whole career off of Chicago gangbang. So why don't you help me help the city and holler at me? My partners all over the city have a lot of weight.